Welcome to Week 12's installment of the Choo League Live. I'm your host and general manager, Martine. Let's get right into it, shall we? As this week's results are finalized, we're starting to see our league's playoff picture emerge. Two teams secured their playoff berth in the Choo League this week with big wins. Sitting at 9-3 are both Butthole Surfers and the champ. The rest of us will duke it out over the next 3 weeks to finalize our final 2 spots in our final 4 playoff showdown. With Team Tits and Puff Puff Pass sitting at 8-4, they're up 3 wins on the rest of the competition. We may already be seeing our full playoff picture. It'll take a few losses in a row for any other team to stay alive at this point. And it's fun to mention, both Team Tits and Puff Puff Pass will face off each other in the last week of the season. Now let's get into this week's feature matchup where we saw Team Tits take on the champ in a first place letdown. It turned out to not be much of a contest in the end as the champ took home his victory, his Week 3 revenge, and this week's high-scoring title, defeating Team Supple by 82 points. The champ was led by an all-time performance from Josh Jacobs, only the 11th player ever to have over 300 yards from scrimmage in the one game. He ended that epic overtime game in unbelievable fashion, running an 86-yard walk-off touchdown. Jacobs scored 52 points this week, and even without him, the champ would still have smacked those titties and won by 30. In other news around the week, the Budfather had a showdown against Puff Puff Pass it to Kelsey this week. The Budfather really fishbowled this week's matchup in what was too much ganja for Puff Puff Passed out. The Budfather has good games all around this week as he was led by Chris Godwin, finally, who had his best week of the year scoring 30. Additional bad injury news this week for Puff Puff Pissed Off has him on a negative trend as we enter our final 3 weeks of the season. Matthew and his team were left gaping by Butthole Surfers after this week's loss. BS now with his 6th win in a row as he was led by Jalen Hurts, who almost ran out of the stadium and ultimately who might be running away with this year's MVP vote. And CC Klitz rubbed out another victory, defeating Smooth B's Bulls by 26 points in this week's closest contest. Justin Jefferson was the leading scorer in this matchup, but CC Klitz was able to come away with this one. And last but not least, Hoagie B with the old world Italian performance and win this week, defeating the Rocks Bros. Miles Sanders led this matchup in points, but Garrett Wilson and T. Higgins were enough to get past the Rocks Bros. If you're wondering, Garrett Wilson plays for the Jets at wide receiver. You learn something new every week. As we look forward into next week's matchups, all eyes are once again on Team Tits and Puff Puff Pass. Team Tits faces off against CC Klitz, while Puff Puff Pass goes up against Smooth B and his Bulls. Tune in next week to see if you're eliminated, or if one of these two gives you hope for another week. That's it for your Week 12 recap of the Choo League Live. Best of luck on all your parlays and games next week, fellas. Yours truly, your general manager, Martine.